So, hello everybody. This is Love Speak Revolution. I am Sharif Iman, and this is the amazing
Tiana Cage.
Woo! What are we talking about today, Tiana?
We are talking about mothering and fathering.
Wow. Pow pow.
Which are massive.
Yes, very massive.
Topics. Yeah, so stick around. It's going to be a good conversation.
Stick around. Yes.
Promise you.
I think they're all good conversations,
This is true.
Thankfully.
I think so too. But so here's the deal, like neither of us are parents.
Right.
And yet we are within this community where we are surrounded by families with kids, and we both love kids.
Yeah.
You love kids.
I love.
He loves kids. And I like kids too. So, but I think for me, I don't know about you, but I've been thinking a lot about it. Like, Mother's Day last month, Father's Day this month. And I'm not gonna lie, like for me, I'm a 30-something who has no children and doesn't know if I will ever have the chance to have children. And just thinking about like this year, for some reason, Mother's Day for me just had me thinking about like, what does it actually, like, what is my role then? Because I love children and I want to support families. But what does that look like for someone who may not ever parent?
Right.
Or I don't know. There's all kinds of ways to. I mean, there's foster care, there's adoption, and other options too. But just thinking about like what does it mean to mother, and so we were kind of talking about that, and I was thinking about that even with Father's Day coming up, like because there are people in my life who have, in different ways, like mothered me or fathered me who were not my actual mother or father. And may not have had children of their own. And so I think that's why, like, we were talking, I was like, we should talk about that some more because maybe there's something there.
I love kids. I mean, I'm 40 something, and it's been that kind of thing. Like, what does mothering and fathering look like as a society? What does society stereotype us? What does religion say about it? What's the actual truth of it? I think that mothering and fathering is very strategic and so important because, man, we just see like where kids are at, where we were at, and this perpetuation being in a lack of that, to see the state of the world and the way that we, Tiana and I were talking, there's a festival going on in Newburgh. It's amazing. So she was so amazing. She got me a wrap and some donuts, and I needed it. And we were just kind of talking about like the state of the world, and I think that the root system of all of that is mothering and fathering. So this is a really good question. So as mothering, Tiana, what's that definition?
You guys, we were like, when are we gonna start out? Okay, because we were talking about like, what do we even mean when we're saying mothering and fathering? Because I think you can mean a whole lot of stuff. So here's my disclaimer. I am not in any way saying that, well, so for me, a mom, like someone who is literally like raising a child and parenting someone, versus mothering, I don't mean the same thing when I say it. So I'm not trying to equate and say like, I feel like I mother people and this is what I think God is showing me. I am not saying that is equivalent to raising a child. I'm not at all saying that. I mean, people who raise children, God bless you. And I know that, the amount of time and energy and money and love that goes into that is just like, that is such an image of God.
Yeah.
Like God's heart for, so that's not what we're saying here. At least not me. I don't think that's what you're saying either. But I was reading the other day the story of Hannah, and I feel like God has been using that to comfort me and to show me just a bigger way of seeing what it means to mother, because I think we've kind of made it into like it is a role, like being a mom or a dad, a parent. But I also think that like mothering, that there's something to that as like an essence and like a way of being. And even when we think about God, and there's certain scriptures where the images that are used to describe God are like a mother and a father. Like there's both together. So I think there's some kind of like character or not personality, but like character that is underneath that doesn't necessarily require that you only get to display that when you're actually like parenting up a biological child or someone that you've adopted or fostered or something like that. Societally, I think there are some things that when you think about a good mother or a caring or loving mother or mom, I think there are some traits where you could say that you could be doing those in all of your relationships. So even the way in which women in our society, I think some of it is just how we're raised and socialized. And it's hard for me to define, but what comes to mind is like some of the ways that women just can uniquely nurture that men nurture in a different way. And so I think like for me, I'm thinking about women who have created space for me to be able to be safe emotionally, for me to have my needs met, like that caring, nurturing, just kind of always kind of looking out for what's ahead, like the wisdom that also is like spoken and made available and helping me understand what's inside of me even when I cannot yet see it. That's what I think about when I think about mothering, and when I think about even the examples of like mothering that have been attributed to God in the Bible or have been attributed to women as well. I think that because we are created in this image of God, if I see it attributed to God, I'm thinking, well, maybe I have that piece in me too. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's what I think of when I think about mothering. So what do you think of when we use this term fathering?
The first thing that came to my mind was just remembering me growing up. And there were multiple fathers in my life, and mothers. Just that really blessed me, coming from where I came from. So reverting back to like Christ for me, to see that like we see like all throughout the Bible, we see how like who God is, especially like Jesus and the disciples. Like when Jesus first started his missions and he just got like fishermen, and we see the way kind of like shepherding, but then like the way that he fathered the disciples, and male and female. The way that he was gentle, the way that he had patience, the way that he was consistent, the way that he led, the examples that he set. That's what that means to me. I think fathering is more than just biologic, like blood. Because there's tons of people, maybe some of you that are watching, that might have biological fathers that you didn't get fathered too well. So it's for me, when you say that to me, I feel like there's fruits of the Spirit. I feel like there's attributes of consistency, leadership, godliness, healthiness, not being perfect, but being healthy. And when I say leadership, like, leading your life and showing, even if you make a mistake or something, like a good man, a good father, I believe, will stand up and say, hey, I apologize for that. I shouldn't have, caring, not just like going to the point of where you, as the individual who is being fathered, feel safe. you feel poured into, you feel validated, you feel seen. All of these things, and when I describe these things, this is what I experienced, and the fathers in my life, they made me feel this way. And even my own blood father, who is no longer with us, but he made me feel seen, validated, and just all the things. But I had multiple. So to me, we're talking the same. We're on the same wavelength of the mothering and the fathering, and I think it's so important that we realize that.
I think for us, because like I was saying, for me, it's just been really hard. I'm getting to a point now where I'm like, I just want kids, you know, and I don't know if I'll have them. But so what has been redemptive is like, there's more. That's a good goal. That's a good dream to have.
Yeah.
But also just being like with who I am now and with what I have learned through the 30 some odd years that I have been living, how do I use that for the people that are already here? Not just the kids that might come or might not, you know, in my personal life, but as far as that I might parent, but like there's kids all around me and there's families all around me. And one thing I have really appreciated since I've moved here, I was thinking like, well, because I've never parented, that maybe I don't really have that in me, the mothering instinct. But I've
experienced it.
Yes. You can tell that.
Oh, you know what? You didn't have to say it like that. You didn't have to say it.
I don't know what I did that made, I really don't know how I mothered. But I think that what I'm realizing is it's in me, and it's a gift.
Yes.
And it's been so affirming. Like some of the women in my life who have children have just allowed me to come into their houses and like to come into their lives, the messiness that it is of like raising kids, and be there to just love on their children however I can, to encourage them and to like just kind of be like auntie. But in that way, it is mothering. And the other thing too is like, I've had people in my life who have been adults. Not, I think you were joking, but who have really said like, there are elements of how you have interacted with me that feels like mothering. So I think it's that idea of like, we're saying like kind of that safety net, that support that is unconditionally there, even when you might do things that you feel ashamed of or things that you feel like are childish or whatever. That person who is there to just love you anyway and to like give whatever they can because they believe in you. Like to me, that's what I'm trying to do intentionally. In my friendships, but also like alongside like the kids of my friends. And I think that's a vital role because like even when we look in the Bible, and then I'll let you talk. When we look in the Bible, I'm talking a lot, y'all, but I got a lot to say. I think there's like such a collective and a community, you know, in previous generations that we sometimes don't appreciate or make space for anymore because we're kind of a lot more siloed. We've talked about that before, just in our society. But I think we lose something when we do that because I think you need like the single people with no children, like or the people who aren't single but don't have children. You know, like I think you need everybody to actually create an environment, a context where like children and kids can grow up in a safe place and have all these spaces be ones that really encourage them into living into who they were created to be and the purpose that has been set forth for them by God.
Especially Kate was a very as we're talking about mothering, she's one of my best friends. Met her when I first moved to Nashville, and my dad just passed. When I went back, I stayed with Kate and her husband and family, and that was a huge. And she was just attentive to me every day, like attentive, cared for me, and it was a very mothering. It was I needed it. I mean, like I needed it so bad, and they saw it, even Evan, her husband, was in a fathering mode for me, and I still think that they're still doing that, and it's just so amazing. Like it doesn't matter about age, you know. We kind of slip into that moment. Um,